Welcome to another episode of Who Gives a Dram, everybody. How are you? I am your host, Connor Gilbert. I think that's my name, Connor Gilbert. And thank you for tuning in to another episode. If you're a new listener, thanks for checking us out. And if you're a returning listener, appreciate the continued support. Before we get into the show, I just want to quickly explain the best way to support the show. Subscribe on all platforms, like, comment, subscribe on YouTube, rate and review on iTunes. This podcast is also brought to you by The Grapevine Media. Go check us out over there, www.thegраpevinemedia.com. Got a lot of football talk going over there right now. A lot of Red Sox talk as well. Actually, tonight is Game 4 of the divisional series, and it's actually starting probably like right now, so I got to get this podcast done. And also Instagram, Facebook, blah, 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 blah. Who gives a damn? What's going on, everybody? I got a lot to talk about this week. I've got a shit ton of stuff to talk about this week. A lot happened. Had a busy week, and it wasn't even busy like a lot happened. Just a lot of important things that I've been talking about on the podcast happened. So I have to address it to keep the continuity going. I got that word, and I nailed that one. Hey, what do you guys think about the Who Gives a Dram merch? It's been out for a bit now. Haven't dropped a link. I don't know if people are going to buy it or not. So if you would buy some Who Gives a Dram merch right here, let me know, because I can make that link go live. I just don't know if there's any demand for it. I've got the supply, don't know if I got the demand. So let me know if you're interested in some Who Gives a Dram merch. Maybe we can make something happen. Where to even start? I'll start with the whiskey we're doing today. We're going to be reviewing Larceny Small Batch. Now, I chose Larceny Small Batch because I have been doing weeded bourbons for this will be the fourth week in a row we've been doing weeded bourbons. And I felt it was only right after doing Larceny B521 to bring in this Larceny and give it its fair review, give it its Who Gives a Dram stamp of approval or non-approval. Whatever happens. So I'm going into this with an open mind. Larceny Small Batch was one of the bottles that I first started with. It was one of the first bottles I owned on my whiskey journey. And I remember not really liking it, but I think that's going to turn around this week, or now that I have an expanded palate, because I really like weeded bourbons. And I just think that with all the whiskeys I've tasted, I think this is going to gravitate towards something that I like even more. And I just had Maker's Mark not too long ago. I think this is going to blow that out of the water. I don't know that for a fact, but I think. So that's the whiskey we're doing. No need to get into the history of the whiskey because we've gone over it before. Named after John Fitzgerald, who was the only one who had the keys to the rick houses. So he'd go in and he'd steal whiskey from these rick houses, and those barrels that he stole out of that he enjoyed became Fitzgerald barrels or something like that, and those were always the weeders. So now this is made in dedication to John Fitzgerald. It's a Heaven Hill brand, as we all know, and it's a weeded bourbon with a content of like 68% corn and then 20% wheat, and the rest is malted barley. Oh, sorry, I didn't do that into the mic. This bottle is compliments of my brother Kale. I don't own this. We're going to pour some in now, because I'm going to drink some as I'm talking this week. What have I been drinking? Yes, I am still drinking during the week. It is what it is. Whatever. During the fights, which we will definitely get into, I was drinking... I know I had some Old Forester barrel proof single barrel that we actually reviewed on the podcast. Had some of that. What did I have before that? I had another one before that, and I also smoked a Romeo and Juliet cigar. what was I drinking? Oh, I was drinking some fruity mud pie, some Old Forester 100. If you haven't checked out that episode, that's a classic episode. That is from not the anals of Who Gives a Dram, but like the mid-anals. There's the anals, the mid-anals, and then now, present day. The mid-anals was when we were against the wall, and there was only the Irish flag behind me, this one. And I was just getting used to my new setup, and then I switched it around. That's like the mid-anals. The anals of Who Gives a Dram. I've said anals way too much. But the anals of Who Gives a Dram was when I was recording in my living room with the Christmas tree that had half its lights out. That was the anals. And then before the video even started, I would just record it wherever I found the space. So, little behind the scenes action right there. Who Gives a Dram? Some Who Gives a Dram history. But anyways, yeah, I'm giving Larceny another shot this week on the podcast, and you know what? I'm excited to drink it. I think I'm gonna like it, and who knows? Depending on how the conversation goes, maybe we'll compare it with a little bit of barrel proof. It's right behind me. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but it's right behind me. Man, so that's what I was drinking this week. I don't think I had anything during. I don't remember. I got to start writing this stuff down because I never remember. My days just go by and like I don't remember what happened the day before. Maybe I have dementia because I'm 25 and I'm old now. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Man, I just so much happened. Let's talk about the Fungus Toe. So, I've been talking about this Fungus Toe for I think this is probably the third week in a row. I think. It's either the second or the third week in a row. So, I got it operated on, you guys, and I'm alive. I did it. Did I have to take a Xanax before because I got nervous? Yes. Am I embarrassed to admit that? No. I got a little nervous. I don't know why. My surgeon that did it for me, Rocky, I know he doesn't listen to the podcast, but he was awesome, and he's a close family friend, and we got that Fungus Toe out of there, man. Remember when the Red Sox relayed against the Yankees in that one-game elimination series, and we threw Aaron Judge's ass out at home plate? Remember that? Just relayed it, and we threw him out at home plate. That's what we did with my Fungus Toe. And we threw its ass out at home plate. It thought it got us. But it didn't. We threw it out. We cut that shit out. It's out. It's there. I'm healing up nice. I feel better. I feel great. It was very easy. I didn't need to take a trip to Zany Island looking back at it. If I ever have to do it again, I'll know what to expect, so I'll be good. That's what it is with me. It's the unexpected that gets me a lot of the times. It's not knowing what to expect. I could go and now that I'm more comfortable speaking, I feel like I could go talk about whiskey with in front of a group of people and be fine. And back in the day, I couldn't do that. But I know what to expect now. I have experience in the realm of more so public speaking. That was always my biggest fear when I was a kid. I feel like I can do these things that got me anxious when I was a kid, but it's always the unexpected that gets me now. The unexpected, not knowing what the outcome is going to be is what gets me. And some people thrive on that. Others don't. I don't. You got to be able to know where your weaknesses are. That's one of mine. But we got the toe taken care of. Check that off the list of things to talk about. The main thing I want to talk about this week, is Fury vs. Wilder 3. Spoiler alert, Tyson Fury won by knockout in round 11. And also, additional spoiler alert, it was one of the greatest fights of all time. I want to respond to a YouTube comment before that, though. I forgot who the guys were that commented on my last review, but we talked about Midnight Mass, right? We talked a little Midnight Mass, the new Netflix show produced by David Flanagan. We reviewed, not really reviewed it. I kind of just gave a really bad explanation as to what happened and then why I didn't like it. And these guys commented on my last YouTube video, and they said I had mentioned that Bly Manor still wasn't better than Midnight Mass, but it was closer than I initially thought. And these guys said, yeah, Bly Manor isn't close to Midnight Mass, and yada, yada, yada. It was a very nice comment. I should probably search them and see who they were, but I don't want to take that time. But it got me thinking, and I was like, you know what? I should really rewatch a little bit of Bly Manor and make sure that that's true on my end, because I don't lie. I'm so honest. We talked about it last week. I'm so honest. So I rewatched like 4 episodes of Bly Manor. The Haunting of Bly Manor on Netflix is what I'm referring to, in case you don't know. And man, I gotta say, I don't know what I like more. I think I might like Bly Manor a little more. And the reason is because the story is just more interesting to me. Now, I wouldn't have thought that if you told me both the stories of the shows, I'd take the vampire one. Vampires are awesome. Blade, you know what I'm saying? Come on, dude. But after seeing what they were as shows, finished products, 8 episodes on one, 7 episodes on another, I think Bly Manor was more well done. I think it was, if you're taking every single aspect into what makes a good show, I think Bly Manor has more and does better in more areas than Midnight Mass does. I don't know what aspect it is, though. I don't know if it's besides the story, because the acting is phenomenal in both of them. A lot of the same characters in both of them. There are silly parts in both of them, and neither of them hold a candle to Haunting of Hill House. But something about Bly Manor just stood better with me at the end. Midnight Mass, I was very disappointed. Bly Manor, I was just kind of disappointed. So I'm going to go on record and say I like Bly Manor more than Midnight Mass. And that's not hating on Midnight Mass. I just have to make that on the record because these guys that commented on my YouTube video made me think about it. And when I start thinking about something, I can't get it out of my brain. If you haven't watched either of the shows on Netflix, I would highly recommend them, especially now that it's Halloween season. They're fantastic shows. They're not overly scary. There's a few jump scares, but I would highly recommend both those shows, and I would very highly recommend, very, very highly recommend The Haunting of Hill House if you haven't seen it. So I wanted to get it out of the way. Another box checked off. By the way, speaking of Halloween, I was thinking about this the other day because I have a costume party coming up this year. We have a family costume party every year. Now, the people who go to this party consist of the age ranges of 6 to, 60, from the youngest cousin to the oldest uncle. Well, no, Nana will be there, so I think Nana will be there, so maybe like 80. There's a big range, let's put it that way. And we all dress up. We all have a great time. We all go hard on our costumes, and we look forward to it. But it got me thinking, what are the stipulations as an adult to wear a costume to a costume party? And I mean this. When do you become a dick for either wearing a costume or not wearing a costume? My argument is this. if you are going to a party that is a known costume party, whether costumes are mandatory or it's kind of just well known that people are taking it seriously, and you don't wear a costume, you dick. On the flip side, and this is what makes me very angry, if you are going to a Halloween party that is just a get-together, casual party, drinks, socializing, music, maybe scary movies, who knows, just a Halloween party, and you dress up for that, you even bigger dick, all right? I cannot stand when grown adults dress up for things that they just shouldn't be dressing up for. Another great example is when people get all dressed up to go to an NFL game. If you're wearing shoulder pads to an NFL game and you're not on the sidelines, get out. If you're wearing shoulder pads, let's put it, this is it. If you're wearing shoulder pads as an adult and you're A, not playing football, and B, not part of the Road Warriors tag team in WWE, get out. I can't stand when people wear costumes or dress up for things that they just should not be dressing up for. If you are just going to a Halloween get-together, don't dress up. If you're over the age of 18, don't dress up. But if it's a costume party, and it's a known costume party, then obviously dress up. So I want to know your opinion as to what the stipulations are for that, and if I'm wrong or if I'm right. This was a shower thought that I had recently, if I'm being completely honest. These are the things I think about when I'm in the shower. And then I say, oh God, I got to talk about this on the podcast. Write it down, store it. So those are the things that I think about in my free time. So let's talk this boxing match and let's drink some whiskey. On the nose with this Larceny, man, I'm getting a lot of light, fruity notes, a little bit of cinnamon on there. Nothing overpowering. Oh, by the way, this is 92 proof. It has no age statement. I think the barrel proof, though, is a range of 6 to 8 years, something like that. Is that what we said on the podcast? Yeah, a mingling of 6 to 8 year old bourbon on the barrel proof. So I would imagine this is just about the same. It's a small batch, which is just fancy words for really nothing. And again, 92 proof, 46% alcohol by volume. It's distributed and distilled by Heaven Hill. It's a Heaven Hill product. They market Larceny as the hierarchy, or the basic, not the hierarchy. Basically, what are the exact words? I forgot what they are. Essentially, the whiskey that is gonna take the reins of the old Fitzgerald bloodline, for lack of a better term. And I think it's a good. Listen, I think Larceny and Maker's Mark are definitely the two most widely available wheated bourbons on the market, and it's not even close. The other more famous ones are Weller, which you don't find. Some Pappy Van Winkles. Obviously not. The only other one I know of off the top of my head is Wyoming whiskey, which is becoming more popular, but most of the wheated bourbons that aren't Maker's, Weller, and Larceny are craft. And that doesn't mean they're bad. It just means they're not widely available. I have a liquor store whom I'm friends with coming out with a single barrel of Wyoming, which I'm definitely going to buy. And we'll review that on the podcast. But on the nose here, you guys, on this Larceny small batch, Lots of lighter notes. I'm still getting that graininess that from the corn, and from the wheat, kind of like a wheat field type of smell to it. Cracked corn, a mingling kind of like some dried apples and like pears, like lighter fruits like that, and a healthy amount of cinnamon. Not a lot of oak. A little bit of butterscotch on there too is what I'm getting. It's very light, and it's not overly complex, but it's inviting. It's friendly. It's very Stephen Wonderboy Thompson like. If for all my MMA listeners out there, just a nice guy, just someone who's like, hey, I would talk to that guy. That's what larceny is. That's what this nose is on the small batch larceny. A little bit of maple syrup on there, maybe. The more I give it some swirly poos on here. It's very, I mean, it just smells like a weeder. It just smells good. I really like it. I can tell I'm going to like this. I don't know why I hated on this when I first bought it. Or when I first got it, like, over a year ago at this point. This smells very good. I don't have any distinguishable factors between this and the barrel proof, though. I mean, the barrel proof, I don't even remember what my notes are on it, but I'm not comparing it. I'm not comparing it to the barrel proof. We can't do that. That's going to mess up the score. Smells good. Let's drink some whiskey. Let's let it have time to marinate within our mouths. We'll talk some boxing. We'll give this a score. Cheers. Larceny Small Batch. Oh, that's very good. Very light, but very good. First sip always goes down. That's the rule. So this boxing match that happened Saturday night, $80 pay-per-view, Wilder versus Fury 3. Now, if we're being honest, Fury was the heavy favorite, as Fury should have been. There was, in my opinion, no way that Fury was going to lose this fight if it went past 8 rounds. And I would have put money on that if I saw how Wilder looked after one round of boxing. After 3 minutes of boxing, it looked like Deontay Wilder was gassed. I was trying to think of a funny thing to say. I couldn't. It just looked like he was gassed. 1 round, 3 minutes. So they make their ring walks, right? Deontay Wilder has some guy rapping for him that is obviously lip syncing bad, right? But Deontay Wilder isn't wearing a full costume, so there's no excuse built in there, right? Just wearing a mask and some furry robe or something. Now Tyson Fury walks out as a goddamn Spartan to some like old school American just country song. I forgot what it was. Then all of a sudden I look away for a second while he's making his entrance, and he comes back and he's got a whole different setup on. There's no more Spartan shit. He's wearing like a blue like light robe and a hat that says Jesus. I'm like, where did that come from? Did he just do a complete wardrobe change while walking to the ring? Lock Fury in. He's the winner. Because that was magic. If Fury's going to use magic, how can Wilder beat him? But anyways, they get into the ring. Fury looks calm. Wilder looks calm. But they both look great. Obviously, Fury's got a little bit of flab on him, but he was 400 pounds like 3 years ago. Give the guy a little bit of slack. He is also not weight training. So it's not like he's adding on mass when he's losing weight. He's just losing weight. Boxing, cardio, just losing weight, not really adding any muscle toneness. He's just getting ready to box for 30 minutes. Wilder looks like a black Ivan Drago. He just looks phenomenal. I mean, for 6'8" or whatever he is, 6'7", he's wide shoulders, goes down to a narrow waist. He looks shred city. Round 1 goes off, and after the round, I'm like, wow, Wilder's gassed. He's gassed. There's no way he's going. And the majority of the fight was Fury picking apart Wilder. Now, the first round, Wilder was utilizing his jab, and you could tell that was their game plan. Go for the body, jab him, make him think, make him take his eyes off of the right hand. It was very obvious that literally, with not even a second into the fight, Wilder throws a jab to the body. Not a lot of action in the first round, and then as the fight goes on, second, third rounds, there are Fury just outboxes Wilder. A few big moments, but Wilder just notably gassed after one round. I couldn't believe it. Now the fourth round, the third round, Fury scored a knockdown. Great punch, counter right to the back, not the back of the head, but like the side temple area. Knocked Wilder down. Wilder gets up, he's fine. What made things very interesting, and I know everyone agrees with me, is it was either round 4 or round 5. It was the next round after Fury knocked down Wilder. Because I'm gaining confidence. I'm going for Fury. I'm gaining confidence. I'm with my brother and my dad, and I'm like, there's no way. Wilder's done. He's done. He's wobbled. He's gassed. No way he's coming back. Fury's outboxing Wilder the next round. And then all of a sudden, Wilder cracks him with a punch right in the middle of the forehead. Sits Fury down, and my stomach dropped. I was like, oh no, this is going to happen, isn't it? Fury gets back up. He looks a little wobbly. He doesn't look bad, though. And Wilder drops him again with another just short right. Nothing, not a lot behind it, but it perfectly placed. Sits Fury down again. Fury gets up, end of the round. He gets up, and by the time his 10 count is done, it's the end of the round. So that's when the fight gets interesting, right? The fight gets interesting. It's 2 knockdowns to 1. Wilder is getting completely outclassed, but he's winning the fight at this now. Now he is. That was at least a 10-8 round. Some judge scored it a 10-7. I think that was very generous. I don't know if I've ever seen a legitimate 10-7 round. Maybe once. Whiskey break. Yeah. I got things to say about this Larceny. But we go back into the fight, right? And from that point on, Fury just dominates. Fury just dominates Wilder. That's all it was. Fury dominated Wilder for every round past round 4, round 5, whenever he got knocked down twice. Multiple times, Wilder looked hurt. He looked gassed the entire time, and frankly, Fury dominated the rest of the fight, and it wasn't even close. By the time the 10th round came around, I knew Fury had gained enough rounds, had won enough rounds to secure the decision. I was starting to doubt a bit a knockout coming. Round 10 came around, and Fury landed a few big shots that got me out of my seat. Like, oh, that's not good. Wilder is just kind of walking around, kind of using the ropes to keep himself up at times. He lands a huge flurry at the end of round 10. Hits Fury clean with a few shots. And you're like, how is this guy doing this? How is he landing punches? And how is he throwing punches so hard? And he's been getting picked apart for the past 6-7 rounds. So that happens. Round 11, we all know how it ends. Wilder's just getting backed up. He's getting bullied. Fury lands. I think he threw a left cross, like a left hook. and it made Wilder's hands go down, because when Fury landed his knockout punch, Wilder's hands were nowhere to be seen. They were completely down. And Wilder lands just a perfect punch, sleeps Wilder, sleeps him. He took a little nappy poo in the middle of the ring. Fury, there's no dispute. Fury dominated Wilder in the second fight. Fury basically dominated him in the first fight. Now Wilder landed that huge knockdown in the 12th round. And I'm happy that in the first fight they didn't give the fight to Fury. I think based on boxing, if it just came down to just boxing, Fury easily won. But Wilder was the champ, and I think that if you gotta beat the champ, you gotta beat the champ to be the champ. And I don't think it was convincing enough how Fury beat Wilder, and especially because Wilder landed a huge knockdown in that first fight. I was happy they made it a draw. Now, the second fight, obviously, Fury dominates him. The third fight, it was basically another domination, if you ask me. So there's an argument to say Fury went 3-0. I mean, I know he was 2-0-1, but there's an argument to say he went 3-0. And I would not argue that. I would not try to counter it because, frankly, I kind of agree. So it was a great night Saturday night. Tyson Fury, who knows who he's going to fight next. He's probably going to fight the winner of Joshua and Olenek. I think that's his name. I don't see Anthony Joshua winning. I think Anthony Joshua gets dominated by Fury, but I think he gets even more dominated by Wilder. I think Wilder puts his lights out and puts his lights out quick. I actually favor Wilder in a Joshua fight more than I would Fury, believe it or not. Boxing's a weird game. Just what an entertaining fight. One of the best heavyweight fights of recent memory. One of the best boxing trilogies of recent memory. One of the best trilogies in general in recent memory. The next best one, especially, being a heavyweight bout, would be DC and Stipe. Their 3 title fights were legendary. This is right up there. It might even be better. That third fight was just a slobber knocker, as our good friend Jim Ross would say. But that's what you get. When you get two guys, when you get a 270-pound guy and a 230-pound guy in the ring, and they're throwing haymakers and they're not backing up, you get a slugfest. And shout out to whoever was the ref of that fight, because, man, this guy was tiny. He's probably an average guy. He's probably like my size. But compared to Wilder and Fury, he's looking tiny as hell. And he's breaking out. He's getting right in the middle. He's pointing his finger at Fury. You got to listen to me. He's pointing his finger at Wilder. You listen to me. Like, man, this guy's earning his money tonight. I don't know how much boxing refs get paid. I would hope it's a decent amount. I hope they're making at least a few G's. But yeah, that was insane. What an insane fight that was. What a great fight that was. Just an all-time fight. Worth every penny. When you buy a pay-per-view, whether it's UFC, boxing, whatever it is, you buy a pay-per-view and you just leave and you're like, I'm so happy I watched that live. That's what I got with this pay-per-view. There are plenty of pay-per-views that I buy and I'm like, shit. They just took my money. Mainly UFC, because I buy way more UFC pay-per-views, but not this one. And the next 2 UFC pay-per-views, take a whiskey break. Man, this Larceny's good, man. Not a lot going on, but it's really pleasant. It kind of tastes like okay, this is going to sound weird. Oh no, I might get hate for this. If White Claw had a maple syrupy flavor, this is not going to make any sense, but that's kind of what this tastes like. It's just very light, and there's not a lot there. I'm getting more of that maple syrup butterscotchiness on the palate. a bit more oak on the palate. Not as much of the dried fruit. Cinnamon for sure. Maybe that analogy wasn't the best now that I think about it. I don't know why I thought about that. But that's the first thing I thought of. If White Claw, and the reason I say White Claw is because White Claw is, and I had a White Claw this week, and that's why it's on my mind. If White Claw is like it's a summer drink. It's refreshing, it's relaxing, it's light. That's what this is to me. Obviously there's no bubbles in this, but it just tastes like a cinnamon butterscotch, kind of like maple syrupy, just like refreshing drink. There's not a lot like to the palate itself in term, like it's very light. It's very, that mouthfeel is light, I guess you could say. It's, I think the correct word to describe this it's approachable. It's widely available for an MSRP of, let's say, $20 to $30. I find this all the time around me for $20. It's approachable. It's kind of delicate, like it's like on the cusp of being like, oh, there's not much to it, like there's nothing to it. It's very light, but that little bit of like cinnamon spice to it keeps me coming back and makes every sip, like when you drink whiskey, with every sip, especially if you're drinking a lot of whiskey, it kind of just gets blander and blander and blander because you're just drinking whiskey. Your mouth's getting a little numb. It might be getting a little tipsy. Kind of what this is. I'm sorry. That's what you would think this is. But that little bit of spice that's on there. And then there's that little, just like that cracked corn, wheated, like cereal graininess to it. It's very nice. This is going to be a good score because it's very approachable and it's very available. I have like a facts article up of Larceny right now. I want to see if I'm leaving anything out. Yeah, I mean, listen. I guess something you could compare this to is, and that's another Heaven Hill product, is like Elijah Craig's Small Batch. I don't necessarily think this is better than Elijah Craig's Small Batch. It's definitely got different notes. This is more up my alley, but I can't put this in the 9s. It's close, though. It's going to be a big score, and it's going to be a score similar to the Barrel Proof. And I'm not comparing it to the Barrel Proof, but you got to understand, what played a big part into my Barrel Proof score, which I think was an 8.9, was you can never freaking find it. I was about to cuss. You can never freaking find it. This, you can find everywhere, and it's good. I'm going to give Larceny Small Batch an 8.7. It's very good. It's definitely worthy of a high 8. It's not a mid 8, it's a high 8. I'm going to give it a high 8. I think it's really good. It's a weeder. It's up my alley. This proves to me, when I'm revisiting this Larceny, it proves to me that a weeded bourbon is what I enjoy the most. Because I remember specifically thinking, oh, I don't really like Larceny the first time I had it. And now revisiting it again over a year later and liking it and giving it an 8.7, I think it tells me that this is what I like. This is what I need to stick with. Weeded bourbons for the win. That's what, that's what I gravitate towards. So 8.7, stamp that. Who gives a dram rating? Larceny Small Batch. We talked a lot this episode, you guys. We had a lot of things to talk about. We talked about my Fungus Toe. We talked about Midnight Mass versus Blind Manor. We talked about the Fury versus Wilder. We we did our whiskey review. It was just announced today that Jorge Masvidal and Leon Edwards are getting added to UFC 269 in December. I couldn't not mention that on this podcast today. That is a huge fight, and UFC 269 is shaping up to be a all-time UFC card. And I know I've strayed away from talking fights and talking other things besides whiskey on this podcast, but I kind of want to start talking about them more because I'm really passionate about those too. And honestly, when I'm watching UFC and boxing, most of the time I'm drinking whiskey anyway, so they're correlated with one another whether they technically are or not. That's a huge card, and with the two cards coming up back to back, with Covington Usman happening November, which just so happens to be happening on the same day as my cousin's wedding, I don't know what I'm going to do about that. I think I'm going to watch the fight. I think I'm going to go to the wedding, buy the fight, not go on my phone, and then watch the fights after the wedding or the next day. I can't know what happens on that. I just can't. However, Covington Usman 2, and then the next month, Poirier Oliveira for the lightweight belt. And especially now that Masvidal Leon Edwards is added to that December card, that is just an insane card. Dominic Cruz is on that card. Cody Garbrandt's on that card. Sean O'Malley's on that card. Slobber knocker. Great night for the bantamweights. But yeah, I think that's all I want to talk about this week. I'm seeing the new Halloween this week, so I'll give that a little bit of a breakdown next week. Next week, for whoever's still listening, I am having a special guest on the podcast, assuming everything goes to plan. We've shouted out Whiskey Morgue on the podcast before. He is coming on the podcast to talk everything spooky season and review a whiskey that I have yet to decide what we're going to review via Zoom. He is going to be joining the podcast next week. We're going to talk about Halloween. We're going to talk about spooky season. We're going to drink some whiskey. I have no idea what the hell's going to happen. I know that I am looking forward to that episode, though. So thank you for tuning in this week to the show. Make sure you're tuning in next week when I have my special guest on, Whiskey Morgue. I cannot wait to talk to the guy. Make sure you're subscribed on all platforms. That's the best way to support the show. Make sure you're liking and commenting on YouTube. Leave a rating and review on iTunes if you like the show. Check out the Grapevine Media. Check us out over there. Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Who Gives a Dram, and Twitter, Who Gives a Dram. Nick Bossy's playing me out. So you guys, I appreciate you tuning in for another week of Who Gives a Dram. 8.7 Larceny Small Batch Bourbon. I will catch you guys next week. Take care.
My hands are tired of paying my bills, staring at a bottle, I'm aiming to kill. Weeks passing by and the seasons keep changing. I'm playing my song, trying to make me a name. People say as they walk out the bar, the kid's gone places, maybe even a star. They don't play country down in Nashville today, just the same chord progression with nothing to say. What happened to country? 3 chords and the truth. And who's gonna step up and fill their big shoes, writing songs about outlaws, singing all night, and songs that'll make a grown man cry. use auto-tune now down on Music Row. 'Cause true country died there a long time ago. No, they don't play Waylon on the boulevard, but they'll do anything to be rock stars. What happened to country? 3 chords and the truth. And who's gonna step up and fill their big shoes, writing songs about outlaws, singing all night, and songs that'll make a grown man cry. But I do believe there is hope for us yet, 'cause there's millions of people who cannot forget the way Johnny Cash brought a tear to their eyes, or how Marty Robbins painted Texas skies. What happened to country? 3 chords and the truth. And who's gonna step up and fill their big shoes, writing songs about outlaws, singing all night, and songs that'll make a grown man cry. A grown man cry. A grown man cry. I won't let country die.